Joined now by Kyler Staley from thehoosier.com for complete coverage of Indiana athletics and recruiting. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com, sign up if you don't have it already. Give Kyler a follow as well as he covers IU basketball. A busy day yesterday on the recruiting trail, Kyler. 6 visits, I understand.
Yeah, the coaching staff, or at least part of the coaching staff, was on the road yesterday. You got a few in the Pittsburgh area, and I think there's going to be a few today. Some in the North Carolina area as well. So, as far as, practice, getting ready for the season and everything, there's a couple of these coaches that are on the road right now still trying to look for that next couple classes potentially coming in the next few years.
Yeah. Who are some of the guys that stand out, or are there any that they have tighter relationships with, etc.?
Well, one that stands out, and I think we just had him on the show or whatever, heard his audio, was Malik Thomas, 2025 5-star from Pittsburgh. He does have an unofficial visit coming up on November 30th, which is also, I think it's right around the time the IU versus North Carolina game is, if I can remember correctly.
I think that is. Don't they play them November 30th?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it just kind of dawned on me right there. But yeah, he'll be there for that, and you've got Kentucky and Duke looking at him as well. So that's a huge game. I think he's the number 13th ranked in Rivals 25 right now. But dude's a bucket getter. He's just a player that can score in bunches. And then another guy that they're continuing to build a relationship with is Jaden Mustaf. 2024 4-star shooting guard from the North Carolina area. Just recently took a visit to Indiana, I would say probably October 2nd, September 30th, somewhere around there. He's a crafty guard that can create. I believe he told Alec that the relationship with them is still pretty good. Caleb Williams, who was on the visit for at Hoosier Hysteria, they just went and visited him. I think it was Kenya Hunter that was there to see him. Another athletic wing. He sees a fit with IU, so that's always good to hear. And there's just a bunch of other guys. I think Kenya Hunter just went and saw Dylan Harper. Again, that's kind of cooled off a little bit, but they're still kind of seeing what they can do. And if there's a new development with that, they're certainly going to take advantage of that. But busy week for the coaching staff right now, getting ready for the season, and then being on the road visiting these recruits still.
Justin.
Yeah,
he's out. He's like, why you don't come to me? I don't have
out in La La Land out here. I'm still shivering from all this cold that we've gotten down here in Florida.
Well, and most of these recruits are out of state, Kyler, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like the 6 yesterday, they were all out of state.
Yeah. And I know people keep talking about that, and it's just, I think it's a timing thing for Indiana. They didn't get in soon enough. You have to build relationships. And when they first hit, Purdue, teams, even Michigan State had so much more. They already had so much more going relationship wise with so many players that it's going to take a couple of years for Indiana to start pulling these kids out of within the state. And I think it's that 24 class, or maybe the 25 class rather, where it really starts. Trent Sisley, Jalen Harrelson, those type of guys. But until then, and even then, this staff is just going after the best talent that they can go after. Now, you have to be able to land some of that talent, and they have, because under Archie Miller, that was he would just go after the best, offer the best, but he had no chance of landing. He would go after people he had no chance of landing. I don't want we'll see the staff get close to doing that. They do put a lot of offers out.
Yes, they do. Yeah, they build relationships early. I will say that. And then, back to your point, I agree with you. I think it's going to be the 25 class where you see them starting to pull the in-state guys. Obviously in the 24 class, you still have Flory Badunga, but we all know the situation with that, so no need to go deep into that again. But, the 24 class, the Division I, the high major Division I guys, they're pretty much all taken up, and most of them are already going to Purdue. So, that class is, you kind of got to skip over that class a little bit. And then you focus on the 25 class in state-wise, and you focus on Jalen Harrelson and Trent Sisley, which, that relationship for both those guys are still going very, very well. But yeah, at this point in time, they have to go out of state, and they have to extend a lot of offers right now. Credit to the staff though for keeping in contact with all these guys that they're offering. Being at their games, being at their workouts and practices right now. It shows you how much they're trying to build just the best team, not just a bunch of in-state guys, not really going that Purdue route, that Matt Painter does, which has worked successfully for him. But with Indiana, to get to that next step, get to that next level, they have to recruit the best players and they have to land the best players, in my opinion.
Well, I always feel like this is going to sound weird because you're always going to want the best players, but there's also been some times in the past, I don't know, maybe decade or so, outside of that team with Zeller and Oladipo and Jordan Holes, that Indiana really hasn't had one of those glue guys. One of those guys. Race Thompson probably fits that category best. But when you're not in the running for some of these higher end players, those are when you can find some of those glue guys. I mean, do you get the sense that they are looking? I don't know how to phrase this properly. They're obviously looking for the best talent they can get. But do they put an emphasis on a certain type of player who maybe he's not the best scorer, maybe he's not the best rebounder, but he's the guy that will do whatever it takes to.
That's the old Bob Knight. That's the Bob Knight
right.
style recruiting there.
This is what I'm saying. Do they put an emphasis on that at all?
I don't think so, personally, Kyler.
I agree with that in a way. Not right now. When I think of a glue guy, I think you develop into a glue guy. I think when Archie Miller recruited, we'll use Race Thompson. That's a perfect example.
Yeah.
I think when he recruited Race Thompson, he expected big things, kind of, how Woodson's expecting when he's recruiting these players and everything. But Race Thompson just developed into that glue guy. I think that's something that you just got to accept when you're on a team. It's not even Indiana, just with any college basketball team or an NBA team, for example. Like, you just grow into that role as a glue guy. Every team needs a guy that does all the dirty work. Everybody needs the guy that makes all the hustle plays. Trey Galloway, I think, is another guy that could fit that bill, and he's starting to have that role as that glue guy. But, as far as, recruiting glue guys, I don't think teams really do that. Not at the high major level, like in Indiana or Kentucky or someone like that. But, they're important for sure. And I think as you get more comfortable in your rotation and the roster or whatever, you kind of accept that role as a glue guy. But I understand what you were coming from that. But that's a really good question.
Here's where a glue guy comes from, in my opinion. When you're recruited, you're the best player on your team. Every kid that's on I use basketball team was the best player on their team. Some of them are not seeing a minute one. They're on the bench. But
is that still true?
So I think so.
With
Trey Galloway was the best player on his team. Anthony O'Neal was the best player on his team. But my point is, once you get to this next level, just being the best player on your team is not enough, because everybody else was the best player on their team as well. And a lot of them are just better, period. So you find a role. And sometimes that is being a glue guy. I'm going to use Trey Galloway as the perfect example. He was the best player on his team, probably, most likely, don't you think? Yep. And that included scoring and doing a lot of other things that he does not do now and does not need to do now and can't do at the level that he could in high school, but he can do other things. That is what I call being a glue guy. There's an example of how I think a glue guy comes into being.
I agree with most of what you're saying. The only caveat I would say is I think more players probably understand a little bit more of their role now. Now, there might still be some examples, but with the way that travel ball is and the way it's year round, I feel like the players probably have a better understanding of where they fit in, where they commit. Just because you see these guys constantly, you're playing against them, you're playing with them. You're dead on, and most of these players for their high school team are probably the best players, unless you're looking at Mount Verde or something along those lines. But I think that there's a little bit more of an understanding. Like 15, 20 years ago, probably that would have been a 100% accurate point. Now I would say it's maybe 85% accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes from both ways. A coach is looking for a guy that can fit into the rotation, and the player, when he's being recruited by all these schools, that he wants to find the best fit for him. I mean, Woodson goes out and he could recruit. He didn't recruit CJ, but it could be like, hey, CJ, I need a shooter. I need guys to come in and I can shoot it from the deep ball. So yeah, I mean, it's all about fit at the end of the day, whether that be coaches, whether that be a player looking for, a certain spot on a roster. Whatever's going to fit for them is going to be best. And I would say, 8 times out of 10, anybody that's coming into a team was the best player from their high school team. Now that's a little different with AAU ball because you can use Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal as an example. Both those guys play on the same AAU team.
Yeah.
So who you going to make is who's going to be better in that situation. You can arguably say it was Anthony Leal because he was Mr. Basketball. So, I mean, it's just certain scenarios. It's all about fit at the end of the day, in my opinion.